Welcome back, fellow Dream Warriors, to Riderpiece Theater! Me, Alistair Dayhawk, and tonight, me proud to present Kamen Rider Zeztz, episode 47. Guys, we're 3 weeks away from the season finale of Kamen Rider Zeztz, and then in September, we're gonna have Mice, Kamen Rider Myth, I guess. I don't know, they say Mice as a mice, but either way, 3 weeks to say goodbye to Zeztz, Baku, Minami, and the rest of the Black Case Files. And it will be tough to say goodbye and saying hello to the Mice Man, but it is what it is. All good things must come to an end, right? And speaking of which, of end, last week we saw Nox and the crazy Phantom falling into the pits of the Shadow Realm. And then leading up to this episode, the episode begins with Baku in the real world. Somehow, some way, he knew where Nox's body was, and it was in some alley, and he just, found him, and he tried to, wake him up, but apparently he cannot wake up. And so he did the next best thing, which is taking him to his apartment, laying him down in his bed, and just, and that will be the end of it there. And then Nem comes in, and she says to Baku that she overheard Mulder and Scully that apparently, Nox and the Phantom fell off the railing and fell into the Shadow Realm. And this is why, Nox is comatose. And Baku assumes that Nox is trying to attempt not to return. He doesn't want to come back. And like I said to you guys maybe last week or the week before, that Nox right now is looking for a death wish because he has accomplished his goal and his revenge, but now that his revenge is complete and at the time he couldn't transform, he's just like, well, I have nothing to live for now, so might as well either seek death or wait for Mulder to handcuff him and throwing his ass to jail, which obviously Mulder will never do that. Instead, he is trying to convince the judge and perhaps, the commissioner, and say, hey, look, he did a lot of bad things and he deserves to be in a cell. But I'm asking you, give him over to me. Let me take care of him and let him serve his sentence via working with, Mulder and Scully in the Black Case Files or the Paranormal Effects Division team. That's the way Mulder wants to happen, but I think it's gonna happen in a way, but, like I said earlier, Nox is looking for a death wish and he doesn't want to come back. And then Nem was like next to him and just praying that, hey, we don't want that for you. I don't want that for you. Baku doesn't want that for you. We want you to come back. And like I mentioned earlier, Baku discovered Nox in some alleyway. I'm like, okay, Baku, so how did you discover, his body being there? Like, how did you know? Like, I don't think Mulder would have told you or Scully or anybody else, because remember, he was the only one living in the real world. And I don't think Nem knew where to find Nox, but I don't know. I just find it strange as how in the hell did Baku know about where his body was unless Nox told him himself off screen? I don't know. I'm just asking a question. So after the opening credits, Baku has unblocked the door that he blocked with the giant painting and with the chains. If you remember from the beginning of this new arc, Baku kicked Zero to the curb, and if you remember, Zero was kicked out. he was pushed into this doorway leading to, the code headquarters, and he just sealed the door on his way out and just chained the place up because, at the time there was code. You never know if emo Alexis Lee would have just burst in the spy office, or Agent 5 or 6 or anybody from code, bursting into his, spy office. So he did the next best thing, is to seal the doorway up. Now that code is no longer in business, he figured, it's time for me to unseal the door, and he did. And he and Nem are preparing themselves to return to the dream world, and Nem looked like she was falling asleep, but there was an instance where she did close her eyes, but she just opened them just enough just to, take a peek of what Baku was going to do. And what Baku did was, instead of going to sleep, he ends up using the extreme capsule to transport himself into the dream world like he usually does. And you see him fall, and he goes into the dream space, and we quickly go back to Nem, who opened her eyes, and she has that concerned look on her face, and she says Baku. So she knows that Baku may be pushing himself, and yeah, I believe he's pushing himself, because you would think that he would fall asleep next to Nem, but instead he decided to use his capsule to take him to the dream space instead. So maybe Nem knows that he's been using that capsule way too often, that she's like, oh, I'm getting concerned. I mean, you've been using that capsule for too much. Don't you think it's better for you to go to sleep? When is the last time you ever slept, Baku? I mean, that's another good question, right? So the scene ends with Nem's look of concern. And then we go to Mulder and Scully. And Mulder gets a letter from Baku saying that if you ever want to see Nem again, you have to take your partner Scully and take her to this area where Nem is being, quote-unquote, held hostage. Bring nobody else. And so Mulder takes Scully. They go to the said location. We go to the next scene, and they stumbled upon Minami, who also gets the same letter. And so all three of them go inside the building, and it leads them into the spy office where Baku and Nem are. And this is where Mulder gets all police cop, like, hey, stay away from her, like, how could you, and whatnot. And he was about to do something, and then Nem came in between them saying that, no, you got it all wrong. He's not the bad guy. He saved me. Please lay off him. And then Baku hands over his capsule to Nem, so for her to remember Mulder, Scully, and Minami. So she activates it, used it on all three. She gets her memory bubbles of them, absorbs them, and lo and behold, she now remembers all of them, and their bodies return to the real world. And in the dream space, they're back to normal. And what was funny about this is that you would think that, Mulder would say, what happened? How did I get here? What's going on? Instead of that, he turns around and asks his partner Scully, why did you end up being a lieutenant? Like, what the hell, Mulder? Like, that's your first question you ask once you got back to normal? Like, why were you a lieutenant? I'm like, that's not how this works, Mulder. And besides, it's not like Scully asked to play the role of being the lieutenant. I mean, it was all, the crazy lady's utopia. I mean, she thought of you as, I don't know, an apprentice, while Scully a lieutenant. So, if anything, you should be yelling at the crazy lady than Scully. That's all I'm saying. And so Minami asks, like, okay, what just happened? What's going on here? And then Baku gives all three of them the rundown of what happened up to now. And when it came to Nox, Mulder is so happy to hear that he is no longer acting like a villain. He's back to his old righteous self once again. But the problem is, as Baku explained to him, that yes, his body is okay, he is safe. The problem is, I don't even know how long he will last, because he's in the shadow realm fighting the powers of illusion. So it's only a matter of time before the power of illusion is going to consume him. And then Nem steps in and talks about how Nox used to have a dream until Code entered into his life and ruined everything for him. And that's when he stopped believing in this dream. And Nem wants to help Nox get that dream back. This leads to Mulder asking, okay, how do we save him? And Baku says, well, his body is safe, but the problem is the power of illusion is consuming him right now. So I don't know how long that will last until he is bye-bye. And so Mulder is like, okay, then let us go back to the real world and discover the black case, and hopefully it will lead to curing Nox and rescuing him from his ordeal. And what's funny is that Mulder was asking Scully to kick him on the ass, and Scully was like, what? Like, you want me to kick you? Like, this is like not normal, because normally she only kicks him when he is acting stupid. In this case, he's not acting stupid. He's acting rationally for once. And he says, look, I need you to kick me so I can wake up. That's it. And Scully apologizes and does kick him in the ass. And then we quickly go to the next scene where he wakes up, and he wakes Scully up, and both of them go to the location where Nox was spotted last, and they found a trail of, dark magic on the walls that could lead to wherever it is it's going to lead them to. And so we go to Minami, and she is overseeing, Nox's body, and she's looking at how the illusion magic is close to consuming Nox. And she goes to the spy office and sees for the first time Nem in the real world, and both of them have a happy moment together. And when she asks about Baku, Nem says he's still in the dream world. And Minami asks, oh, okay, so where is he sleeping at? Because I don't see him. And this is where Nem was kind of like feeling concerned, and by telling Minami that no, he is in the dream world, but he's actually awake. And this causes Minami to be concerned as well, because she is starting to remember when every time he used the extreme capsule, she can never forget that one time where she caught him with his spy costume on. And when she asked him, hey, what's up with this outfit? Like, what's going on? Is there something happening? Is there a black case in the real world? And Baku answered, like, no, this is my dream. And this is where Minami burst his bubble by saying, hey, this is the real world. What are you talking about? You don't have your makeup on. You don't have your contacts on. Your hair is not sticking out. No, dude, you are in the real world. And that's when Baku's like, oh, I didn't know. So Minami also is getting concerned that, hey, this guy isn't getting enough sleep. He is using the capsule to travel between realms, and he's not getting enough sleep. Like, he is pushing himself. So Minami and Nem are really concerned about Baku right now, because they're afraid that he's going to be confusing which world that he is in, and he is exhausting himself. Speaking of Baku, he is in the dream world, and he is seeing a couple of buildings disappearing. And this is the work of a nightmare, he assumes. So he ends up using a capsule he hasn't used since last year, like episodes 2 and 3. And he uses the wing capsule. So he uses it, and he is flying to where the source is, and we get to the next scene where we discover who is responsible for the disappearing of the buildings, which is, of course, Oblivion. And we have a showdown between Oblivion and Baku, and this is where Oblivion has this evil monologue he had to say to Baku about Nem and why she created him and whatnot. So Oblivion says, You don't understand why Nem's consciousness created me. Nem was created by a nightmare. She shouldn't exist in reality. That is what Nem thinks. And then Baku responded back with, every single life deserves to live. And Oblivion continues that she's allowed to make other people's dreams come true, but when it comes to her, she is not allowed. And because of you found her in the real world, and you gave her the idea that she can have a dream where she shouldn't. And speaking of Nem, we quickly transition to Nem. She's in the dream space, and she is looking at the buildings and seeing, the actor shots of the fight between Oblivion and Baku, and she is, praying that her dream, she wants to be living in the real world while helping people achieve their dreams in the real world. And then, we quickly go back to Baku versus Oblivion, and Oblivion is savage. Oblivion is so savage because in the beginning of the fight, he ends up tearing Baku's wings, and then, Baku is using capsules he hasn't used since last year, like, the wing capsule, the barrier capsule, the gun capsule, and he deleted the winds and he blew away Baku with a single punch. Like, barrier did not work at all, and then he transforms into his impact form, his basic form, and started to fight in that form up until the duration of the match. And Baku keeps saying that I will help her achieve her dream, like, I will fight you, and you won't delete anybody's dream. And Oblivion is like, well, okay, sure, I mean, if you want to bring everybody's dreams back, go ahead, but I'm gonna be here and erasing it. So yeah, I mean, go do that, and I'll wait here, and I'll wait and erase people's dreams, and you'll be getting them that that vicious cycle of that. And so up until the tail end of the match, Oblivion finished Baku off with an energy blast, deleting almost every single capsule he has owned minus the extreme capsule. And Baku decides to do a rider kick on Oblivion, but Oblivion blocks it with a punch and just knocks him out, and he demorphs, and you see him all cuts and bruises and all. And then Nem shows up to attend to him, and Oblivion is so happy to see her. And Oblivion tells Nem, hey, one way to make it this all over, which is you getting out of the picture. In other words, being erased, being obliterated, that sort of thing. That's the only way everything returns back to normal. But of course, Baku said, no, don't listen to him. And it looked like Nem was going to do like a self-sacrifice, where she picks up the extreme capsule activates it and runs towards Oblivion, and she says that I wish for you to return everything back to the way it once was. And before it connected, before it could touch Oblivion just smacks her and just leaves her on the grass, and the extreme capsum is on the ground, and there's nothing Baku can do because he is heavily injured. And Oblivion was about to deliver the final blow onto Baku, and he launched like a final attack on him, and it looked like it was all over until you realize that the attack didn't connect to Baku at all. Nem, Baku, even Oblivion was like, okay, what the hell? He's supposed to be dead. Who blocked the attack? And it turns out to be Kamen Rider Dawn, aka Zeke. And the first words he says after he makes that great save is, "You called." And that's how the episode ends. Wow. This episode was an okay episode. It's just setting up for the grand finale. Yuya figured, let's just show off the old capsums and just remind everybody that, hey, he used to own these capsums and he's going to use it against, Oblivion. And it was nice to see them again, but why wait until an entire year for Baku to use it again? It's always been this trend in Kamen Rider where in the beginning of the year, you get all these new items in question, and then once, the rider gets its ultimate form, the previous forms no longer exist. They don't work anymore because the enemies are far stronger. But I'm like, well, you still have to use them, because what's the point of obtaining them in the beginning for? Just to be cast aside? Because it's the same old trend. Once a hero obtains their ultimate form, their previous forms that came before it becomes obsolete, and he ends up using the ultimate form up until the mega form, the final form, and the ultimate form becomes less usable. Yeah, and once we get the final episode in, we get to see all the forms once again for one last time, and that's it. It's the same pattern all over again. It is what it is. But the episode for me was okay. I'm happy that Nem got the majority of her memories back. Nox is just a sad character altogether. He just wants to die, but of course his friends, his co-workers doesn't want him to die. They want him to come back. And Oblivion shows up again and ruins everything. And Nem was about to do a self-sacrifice, and I thought she was gonna say, look, let us fuse together if this is gonna stop this madness. If I fuse with you, Oblivion, will this stop? And of course Oblivion could always lie and be like, yeah, if you fuse with me, everything will get back to normal. But that's never gonna happen. And you really think that the crazy Phantom will allow that to happen? Like, no. no. And yeah, so, and Baku, I don't see him being fatigued at all, but the girls, they're seeing it. They're seeing something that the audience, or at least mainly me, don't see at all. And they tend to notice that, hey, he hasn't been sleeping in a while, and he's been constantly using the extreme capsule in order to enter the dream world. So those two, Minami and Nem, they're very worried about Baku. Very worried. So I wonder if that is going to be addressed in the next episode, in the next final 3 episodes. Yeah, the next final 3 episodes. And yeah, guys, 3 more episodes to go, 3 more weeks, and then the cat and mouse game will begin. And yeah, have you seen episode 47? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? do you want to fix anything that happened in this episode? Because if you have some ideas, write it in the comments below. I have my notes in front of me. Did I miss anything? Because like I said, I have my notes in front of me, but I may have missed a couple of things here and there. You never know. And give a like if you like it. And please subscribe. And I will see you all on the other side of Oblivion. 3 more weeks. 3 more weeks, guys. Johnny!